supposed to have had. But it looks like, at least on this end of the county, most of the we missed most of the heavy ice that they were predicting. So we still have to go through tonight, but right now,
More coming, I think. Right?
I think they said like 10 o'clock tonight till 7 in the morning. So always the optimist, Mayor.
Very good.
Very good. This meeting this afternoon will be done virtually, primarily absolutely because the governor's stay-at-home order and limiting capacity of rooms for public gatherings. We will do all of our business by roll call. So when we have a vote, Kirk will call the roll of all members. And at that time, if you'll turn on your microphone and state your vote, that would be perfect. Kirk, is that how we're going to do it?
Sir, Mr. Chairman.
Very good. Thank you. There's also a reminder that you have had a chance to look over the agenda for this afternoon's meeting. And if there's any issue on our agenda that you perceive that you have a conflict of interest in, one in which taking an action today might enhance your wealth or your fame or your fortune, you please need to let us know and excuse yourself from that vote. Kirk, do we have anybody ready for our public comments?
We do not, Mr. Chairman. I'm not seeing anyone on the virtual meeting whose name I don't recognize either.
Okay. Well, very good. If folks happen to be watching and you wish to submit comments, you can do that to, I guess they can submit it to you, Kirk. Is that right?
That's right.
Give us your email address one more time so they can.
It is Kirk E as in Erickson at city, CITY of ws.org. Again, that's Kirk E at cityofws.org.
Excellent. Thank you. Folks, you've had a chance to look over our January meetings minutes. Are there any additions, subtractions, deletions, or revisions? If not, we'll entertain a motion to approve.
Move to approve, Element.
Second, Allen.
Okay, it sounded like Mr. Alameen was the motion and Ms. Adams was the second. Any further discussion? Kirk, if you'll call the roll, please.
Mr. Joins?
Yes.
Mr. McIntosh? Ms. Adams voted yes. Mr. Elamine voted yes. Mr. Cross?
Yes.
Mr. Rocket?
Yes.
Mr. Waite?
Yes.
Ms. Fulton?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Mr. Shores?
Yes.
Mr. Clark?
Yes.
And I didn't see any other voting members on the call. If anyone joined and I didn't see you, please speak now.
Mayor John Byram, Town of Midway.
Thank you, Mayor. And your vote, sir?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Kelly, you have our first action item for consideration today.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, everybody. The item before you is the consideration of the checklist certifying that the Winston-Salem urban area MPO, certifying the Winston-Salem urban area MPO's transition planning process for fiscal year 2022. The MAP Act requires that NCDOT and all MPOs in the state annually certify to the Federal Highway Administration as well as to Federal Transit Administration that their transportation planning processes are addressing the major issues in the urban area and are being conducted in accordance with all applicable provisions of the federal law. To guide this process, NCDOT has provided the attached checklist. Staff has reviewed the checklist and provided all the responses to each items. And staff believes that we are in compliance with all applicable provisions of federal law. As an update to what you currently have in your packet, our last federal review was conducted actually in December of 2020. The report was just recently made available, and the staff from Federal Highway Administration and the NPO We'll present that report at our next meeting for your information. The NPO passed the review and is certified for the next 4 years with a few recommendations. Included in your packet, as I mentioned, is the checklist for the self-certification process that we do annually. And I'm available to answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions for Kelly? Folks, going through this checklist, it is immensely comprehensive, and staff, congratulations on being able to check all the boxes on this. There is a lot of information there, and they're asking for a lot of compliance. So congratulations on your completion of this. We'll entertain an appropriate motion.
This Cross move to pass the resolution as written.
James Short, second.
Very good. Mr. Cross makes the motion. Mr. Short makes the second. Any further discussion? Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Joins,
Yes.
Mr. McIntosh,
Yes.
Ms. Adams,
Yes.
Mr. Elamine,
Yes.
Mr. Cross voted yes, Mr. Rocket,
Yes.
Mr. Waite,
Yes.
Ms. Fulton,
Yes.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
Mr. Byram,
Yes.
Mr. Shores voted yes, and lastly, Mr. Clark.
Yes.
Motion's unanimous. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Byron, I think you have our next item, which is our amendments and modification to our MTIP.
Good afternoon. The 2020-2029 Metropolitan Transportation Improvement Program is a listing of all the projects programmed for the Winston-Salem urban area. This document is a subset of the 2045 Metropolitan Transportation Plan and reflects projects programming included in the state's Transportation Improvement Program. As project schedules, funding, and programming is modified, these changes are reflected on our MTIP. Including your material are project modifications, additions, and deletions, including various statewide program funding modifications, Haynes Mill Road widening cost modifications as well. These amendments were made available for public review from December 21st, 2020 to January 21st, 2021 for our public participation policy. No comments were received during that time. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions about any of the amendments.
Any questions for Byron? Byron, one question so I'm clear. These are modifications for currently funded projects. It's not allocation of new resources.
When you say allocation of new resources?
New funding from either state or federal sources.
No.
But these have already been approved for funding.
Correct.
Yeah, very good. Any other questions for Byron? We'll entertain the appropriate motion.
Approve approval, Mr. Chairman. This is Alan.
Elamine, second.
Mayor Jones makes the motion. Commissioner Alameen makes the second. Any further discussion? Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Joins voted yes, Mr. McIntosh,
Yes.
Ms. Adams,
Yes.
Mr. Elamine voted yes, Mr. Cross,
Yes.
Mr. Rocket,
Yes.
Mr. Waite,
Yes.
Ms. Fulton,
Yes.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
Mr. Byram,
Yes.
Mr. Shores,
Yes.
and Mr. Clark.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, everyone. Well, the next item on the agenda is truly a landmark in TAC history. We rarely get to see Matthew. He always sits in the stands, and we know he has a pet or a bike or a other lesser known type of report. But Matthew, please step up and let us see you. Congratulations. This is your moment in the sun.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, TAC members. The item before you is a resolution to endorse the Yadkin Valley Regional Bicycle Plan. The Piedmont Triad Regional Council recently completed the plan for the region, and that region includes the counties of Davie, Forsyth, Iredell, Stokes, Surrey, and Yadkin. This is a region that's popular among cyclists and has the potential to become a destination for that purpose. At the same time, there have been 264 bicycle-related crashes, including 5 fatalities over a recent 10-year period. The plan, in turn, focuses on three primary goals to address that. One, to increase transportation choices by improving the connectivity of the bicycle network. Two, to improve health and wellness. And three, to promote bicycle-related tourism and economic development for communities in the region. Representatives from counties and municipalities, transportation agencies, and multiple NCDOT divisions worked together on the plan for over a year. And the process also included a participatory public input effort with hundreds of mapping comments and comment forms submitted. The plan builds upon similar efforts within the Winston-Salem urban area MPO to plan for bicycle transportation needs, including the comprehensive transportation plan and numerous bicycle and greenway plans from MPO communities. To note, the plan does not replace those local plans or dedicate any funding. It's just indicates a willingness to support the plan's recommendations. So with that, I appreciate your time, and I'm happy to answer any questions. And Jesse Day from the Piedmont Triad Regional Council is in attendance as well, if anybody has any questions for him. Thank you.
Thank you, Matthew. Any questions?
I have one briefly.
Yes, sir, Mr. Wade.
I apologize because I think the full plan is in our last agenda packet. So I just wonder if Jesse, or perhaps you could just say, indicate whether there's, as part of the plan or part of the advocacy, is there anything to, just put shoulders on roads as they are rebuilt, for instance, older roads that do not currently have shoulders and things like that. A lot of the roads that I cycle on in Clemens and in Louisville, some of the older roads just don't have shoulders, where if they did, I'd be able to get over on them and let people pass. So I was just wondering if that was part of the advocacy or part of the plans and any of these.
Yeah, and I can take that. That's definitely part of it, Mayor Wade. And so there's definitely policy recommendations around doing that as a regular order of business. And any of these recommendations that could pull into a comprehensive transportation plan, NCDOT would have to do a complete streets evaluation for anything that's identified for bicycle improvements. So there's different kind of levels of recommendation, further study, bicycle network generally, and then sometimes in some cases paths or trails. So kind of depends on where you are in the network, but it's a pretty robust network. And I'll mention Yadkin County, Surrey, and Stokes County have already adopted this and starting to incorporate into their comprehensive transportation plan. And then Davie County, I think, is considering it at their March meeting.
Thank you much.
Thank you.
Just one question, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir, Mr. Famulomine.
Has there been any consideration of having a festival to promote Old Yadkin Valley bicycle tourism effort? I know we can't do anything now, but perhaps in the fall or something, put a little focus on exercise and promoting that region as one collective group.
That's a great idea. We did some of that activity during the planning process, but I think that's a great point, Mr. Elmine, is to look at how do we leverage this for implementation and get people excited. So I'm open to helping out in any way possible once we can get back together and do these sorts of things in larger groups. Hey, Matthew, you may have some more specific things.
I would just note that part of the planning effort and the end product were the tourism maps. That even if we can't organize those group events right now, those maps are available for people to view and use. So I think that was one of the deliverables of the planning process.
Yeah, I brought it up because one of my neighbors is a bicycle enthusiast. I ride for about a mile, and I've done my duty, but he talked about having a wine visit through the Yadkin Valley on the bicycle and, a huge festival kind of idea. And perhaps, in the fall, given the COVID-19, at least moving a little bit out of the way, we could have something like that going forward. Just a thought,
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
I just have a quick question. Do we have the total number of miles that the trail is? I'm looking through the maps and stuff, but I see the key code, but it doesn't give me a total.
That's a great question. I can get back to you on that in terms of the proposed network. So many of these are on-road facilities. Are you interested in the trail piece or the off-road facility number for all of the above?
I would like them all, but also if you could break it up. So then, on our side of town in Kernersville, I can explain, hey, we have this longer trail and it goes all the way to see Mayor Horn and Mayor Waite out in Clemens and Louisville.
Yeah, definitely can get that to you. Thanks.
Thank you. That's all.
Matthew, have you circulated this plan yet to the Chambers of Commerce, the Kernersville Chamber, the Winston Chamber, and the Louisville Clemens Chamber?
I personally have not. Jesse, do you know if you've reached out to those organizations?
They would have been probably part of, like I said, the planning effort, but the final product we've delivered more at the municipal and county and MPO level. So, but we can definitely, I think those tourism maps are a great example to share with the chamber, as well as, what, those details on kind of what those distance of the proposed network is.
The reason I asked that, Louisville Clemens Chamber is planning a bicycle event, I believe in May, and it would be really cool if they could incorporate some of the routes that we're going to, or maybe not approve, but I think we will, in that planning.
Okay,
that's a great idea.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Jesse, I do have one for you, please. Do you have a tent pitched in your living room? Is that what I'm saying?
I'm in the attic. I'm in the attic. So.
You're in the attic, okay. Like a little. Okay. Any other questions for Matthew or Jesse? If not, we'll entertain the appropriate motion.
So moved.
Second, McIntosh.
The motion, please.
I seconded it.
Yeah, Mr. McIntosh seconded. Who made the original motion, please?
Brant Rocket.
Thank you, Mr. Rocket. Mr. Rocket makes the motion. Mr. McIntosh makes the second. Any additional discussion? Very good. Kurt, if you'll call the roll, please.
Mr. Joins?
Yes.
Mr. McIntosh voted yes. Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Mr. Elamine?
Yes.
Mr. Cross?
Yes.
Mr. Rocket made the motion. Mr. Waite?
Yes.
Ms. Fulton?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Mr. Byram?
Yes.
Mr. Shores?
Yes.
And Mr. Clark?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Very good. Thank you, everyone. Irene, is this a duplication on my agenda? What's our next item?
Should be amendments.
This would be our informational items coming up.
Correct.
I believe, correct?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Because we had a duplicate item on our agenda, so this is not a duplicate. This is just an informational item for next month.
Correct.
Thank you.
And I guess I'll take it away. Again, this is a new item. These are more amendments for our Metropolitan Transportation Improvement Program, again, which is a listing of all the projects programmed for the Winston-Salem urban area. This document, again, is a subset of the 2045 Metropolitan Transportation Plan and reflects projects programmed included in the state's Transportation Improvement Program. As these projects, schedules, funding, programming is modified, these are reflected in our MTIP, and included in your packet are the changes to projects, additions, and deletions. Included in this portion is various statewide program modifications, as well as the addition of several sidewalk construction projects on Harmon Lane, South Cherry Street, and Depot Street. Per our public participation policy, these amendments are being made available for public review from February 15th, 2021 to March 17th, 2021. This information will come back to our next meeting for action.
Very good.
Any questions?
Any questions for Byron? All right, Byron, looks like you have the next item as well.
All right. All right, so the functional classification of a roadway describes the current primary function or purpose of the roadway in relation to the larger area road network. Roadways are assigned one of 8 classifications based on its functionality, characteristics, and levels of accessibility versus mobility. A roadway's functional classification is used to determine federal aid, roadway design elements, project prioritization, as well as programming. The Winston-Salem MPO established an application and review process to determine if facilities should be either upgraded or downgraded based on factors such as ADT, land use, connectivity to the larger network, speed limits, width, control of access, amongst other things. Between November 23rd, 2020 and December 28th, 2020, the MPO held an open call for requests to modify the existing network. The Streets and Highways Subcommittee on February 9th, 2021 met to discuss the proposed request. Including your packet are the requests as well as the recommendations from that committee.
Okay, for those of you that can read that, very good.
I'm sorry, let me zoom in. So the request included 3 from Kernersville, the addition of Glen High Extension as well as Glen High Road, adding these as major and minor collectors. Teague Lane being addition as well as a major collector, and then 2 MPO requests, adding Chestnut Grove as well as Forum Parkway and the Forum Parkway extension when it comes in. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions about this item.
Byron, I have one question, please.
Yes.
Is the list final?
Is the list final?
Yes.
The list, if you wanted to make an addition, the call for the projects has closed, but if you want to make an addition, that is something that you could send to us and we could review.
I heard you had some.
Yes, I have a concern about widening of one specific street, and that is Oak Summit, because we've got a lot of development out here and 80 more houses are going to be added very soon. The street was just not developed to handle that kind of traffic. In fact, we had some close calls of major accidents already between Rural Hall Road and Highway 8. So I'll submit that to you and write it up specifically. In fact, I would like for someone to come out here and do a count to see how much traffic is on that road right now. It's really a dangerous situation.
Okay, that's a matter we can look into.
Thank you.
Very good. Any additional questions for Byron? Again, members, this will come before us at our March meeting it'll be an action item in March. All righty. We're now into our staff reports. As always, members, we have a list of about 14 various staff reports that can be presented to us. Does any particular member want to have a report presented at this time, or do we want to go ahead and just move on? I'll single out Mr. Ivy if you're on the call. Do you have anything extraordinary to share with us?
My report is self-explanatory. I did want to say just a couple of words about projects that are finally moving along in the future. First of all, because of the improved revenue with DOT, preliminary engineering and right-of-way has been turned on for several projects. The first of which is I-5880, which is the interchange modification on Interstate 40 and Clemensville Road, and also the Louisville Clemens Road project in Clemens, U6004. We have begun meeting with the consultants, and we'll be working with stakeholders as we move forward. But and in addition, on the Haynes Mill Road widening project from Museum Drive to University, U2729, we've been given authority to proceed with right-of-way acquisition. project, a lot of parcels, a lot of utility relocations. That project is currently scheduled for construction in June of 22. It is unlikely that we will be able to meet that contract date because of the amount of work that still needs to be done. But we're still working on what the new letting date needs to be, and I will update you all on that as well. We also received approval to resume Engine 6 widening project through Walkertown and the US 158 widening project, the first section of that. We are also authority to begin right-of-way acquisition on both of those projects so that we can try to meet the current letting date on both of those. Obviously, the Beltway, for the Beltway, the AB section, U2579 AB, is on schedule for December of this year. And then AA, which is the section between Interstate 40 and I-74, is on schedule for October of 2022. I did want to make mention of the Oak Summit Road. We have had some comments and inquiries from residents in that area. That roadway is actually on the MPO's Comprehensive Transportation Plan for upgrading to a 3-lane curb and gutter section. The project has never been requested to be considered for the State Transportation Improvement Program. It desperately does need to be widened and improved. The traffic count, I believe, I don't have the notes in front of me, but it's about 6,000, if I'm not mistaken, cars per day, which is a lot more than what that road was designed to accommodate. So we're working directly with the MPO about trying to get that project included for scoring on a future TIP. But we do have a safety project to add turn lanes at the intersection of Oak Summit and Highway 8 that we have submitted for scoring and possible prioritization as well. So that has been brought to our attention. It is on the radar, and we are going to be working with the MPO and others to try to move that project forward. Subject to any other questions, that is my report.
Any questions for Mr. Ivy? Very good. Mr. Ivy, you look like you have one of the collars on that I put on my dog when I don't want him to lick his wounds and things.
That is
very attractive. Very attractive.
Thanks, sir.
Okay.
One quick question for Mr. Ivy, Mayor Warren, if that's okay. Pat, when I'm looking at the South Main, Old Winston, it says it's nearing completion and it's under review for cost review. Is that any of that going to come back to Connersville where we still owe money? Because we're getting ready to start doing budget. This is project number W5510, the South, let's see, South Main, Old Winston.
As far as I know, the town has the final invoices on those. I'm not aware of anything, Jenny, but I'll be glad to take a look at that and see.
Well, I can check with Chris or Jeff, but I was just reading in the comments section, it says pending NCDOT cost review, and that made me a little nervous.
I will check on that and get back with you directly.
Okay, you're awesome. Thank you, Pat.
And I have one comment, if I may, Mr. Chairman, concerning Oak Summit. There's some discussion, Pat, about parking school buses in the old property that used to be a schoolhouse right off Rural Hall Road, right off of Oak Summit, in fact.
Yes.
And I've had, some pretty serious dialogue with them about that because, we sold that property near the airport to, the people who make the hot sauce. So they got to move those buses somewhere. And they're considering moving those buses right around the Rural Hall Road. I forget the name of the school. They torn it down now, but that property belongs to the school system. So you can imagine buses coming down that narrow street, plus the traffic from Vulcan, plus the traffic from these new developments. It would be a tremendous pain in the derriere to have that small street trying to accommodate that kind of traffic. So I hope that they take this very serious and really do something quickly about this road. And whatever I can do to help, please let me know, Pat.
I do appreciate it. Yeah, we were really not aware of the situation out on that road because once we got into it, we were very surprised at how high the crash rate was on that roadway. So we are definitely well aware of what's going on there.
Thank you, Pat.
Any other questions for Pat? Very good. Members, any other reports that you'd like to hear snippets from? I don't know if Scott Ryan is on the call with us, but Scott, you've had a real challenging time with PART. Anything you would like to add?
Mr. Chairman, I don't believe anyone from PART is on the call with us.
Very good, thank you. Just reporting back as your representative on the PART board, they are doing extraordinary things to try to cope with the loss of ridership, the loss of revenue funding, the loss of the van pools and the shared ride expresses and all of that. So I think if it hadn't have been for the federal funding that was available to help transportation entities like PART and WESTA, we'd had a whole different story. They are doing yeoman's work out there to keep that organization going and to try to begin to restore service on the priority routes as they can. Anything else on these reports anybody would like to hear? Kurt, would you give us just a quick update on the ethics? Have all of our guys done their ethics reporting?
Mr. Chairman, as we mentioned in January, there's a grace period for all of our current members. They have until April 15th to file their 2021 ethics paperwork with the State Ethics Commission. So I know some of you have already done that, but for those who haven't, you've got a couple of months left on that. One other thing I'd like to bring to the TAC's attention, Mr. Chairman, is the town of Rural Hall has actually changed their representative on the TAC. Mayor Tim Flincham will no longer be serving from Rural Hall. Instead, we're going to be having their Mayor Pro Tempore, John McDermott. So again, no one from Rural Hall is in the meeting today, but just be aware of that for the future.
Thank you, Kurt. We'll miss Mr. Flincham. Members, anything else this afternoon? As always, thank you for your consideration and your service on this committee. We move a lot of dollars through here on behalf of our residents that we represent. So thank you for your attention to all those details. Our next meeting is March 18th. Is that correct, Kelly? See, I call on these people periodically just to make sure they're awake.
It is correct.
That is correct. Okay. Thank you, Kelly. If there's nothing else, members, to come before us today, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Alameen.
Mr. Alameen makes the motion.
Second, Adams.
Second, James Shores.
Shores makes the second. Any further discussion? Kurt, please call the roll.
Mr. Chairman, we actually don't need to do a roll call for a motion to close the meeting.
Oh, well, why not? I enjoy hearing people's names and hear them say aye. Can we not extend this out? Have a double roll call? Very good. If there are no objections, then, members, by unanimous acclamation, we will adjourn this February meeting, the TAC. Thanks again, folks. Stay safe out there.
Thanks.
Thank you.